There is a question I want you to sit with before I say anything else. Not the question you think this video is about. Not how do I live longer. Everyone asks that one. You've heard it 1,000 times, on 1,000 screens, from 1,000 people who looked very certain and very rested. No. The question I want you to sit with is quieter than that. It's this. When you imagine yourself 10 years from now, who is standing there? Not what they look like, not whether their knees still cooperate on the stairs. I mean, who are they? What do they carry in their face when no one is watching? Are their shoulders soft, or are they still braced against something that ended years ago? Because here is the thing nobody tells you when you cross 50. The body gets all the headlines, the supplements, the blood work, the morning walk, the thing you're supposed to stop eating this year. And all of that matters. I'm going to talk about all of it with you, honestly, the parts that are true and the parts that were sold to you. But the people I have known who grew old well, and I have known a few, I have buried a few, they did not get there on protein and good genes alone. They got there carrying something lighter. I used to think aging well was a thing you did, a list, a discipline, something you could win if you were strict enough. I don't think that anymore. I think it's a thing you become. Slowly, quietly, in 1,000 small choices that no one applauds, made on ordinary Tuesdays when you'd rather not. And I think most of us are doing the hard part and skipping the part that actually decides everything. So stay with me. Don't go looking for the list yet. It's coming, all of it. The habits, the routine, the things worth worrying about, and the things you can finally let go of. But if you take the list and skip the rest, you'll do what I did for years. You'll manage your body like a project and wonder why your life still feels like it's holding its breath. Let's not do that. Let's talk about the whole thing. I want to tell you about a woman I met when I was much younger. I won't use her real name. Let's call her Ruth, because she had that kind of steadiness to her. Ruth was 81 when I knew her, and she was not the picture of health you'd put on a poster. She had a bad hip. She'd had cancer once, years before, and beaten it the way people beat it back then, quietly, without making it her whole identity. She drank her coffee with too much sugar, and she'd tell you so, daring you to say something. I met her by accident, really. I was younger, and tired in the way you get tired when your life is full, but nothing in it has any room. She lived a few doors down, and she had a porch, and somehow I kept ending up on it. I don't think I ever decided to go there. I just found myself walking that way, the way you drift toward a warm room in a cold house. But there was something about her that I've spent the rest of my life trying to understand. She was unhurried. Not slow. Unhurried. There's a difference, and you can feel it the moment you're in a room with someone who has it. The world could be on fire, and Ruth would finish her sentence. She'd look at you, really look, like you were the only appointment she had that day, even when you knew you weren't. I remember the first time I noticed it. I was telling her about some problem, some urgent thing that felt enormous to me then, and I was talking fast, the way you do when you're trying to outrun your own anxiety. And she just waited. She let me finish. And then she let a little silence sit there, not an awkward one, a kind one, before she said anything at all, as if my words deserved a moment of consideration before she answered them. Nobody had ever done that for me. I didn't even know I'd been starving for it, and I remember thinking, in the careless way you think things at that age, I hope I get to be like that someday. What I didn't understand then is that Ruth wasn't born like that. Nobody is. That stillness was built. It was the sum of 10,000 ordinary days where she chose, over and over, not to live at war with her own life. That's what I want to give you today. Not a way to add years to your life. You've heard enough people promise that. I want to talk about how to add life to your years, and I want to do it without a single thing that insults your intelligence. So we're going to walk through 4 things together. The habits, what your body actually needs and what it doesn't. The worries, what is genuinely worth your attention and what you can finally put down. The routine, the shape of a day that holds a person up instead of wearing them out. And the spirit, the part underneath all of it, the part that decides whether the rest even matters. We're not in a hurry. Ruth wouldn't approve of a hurry. Let's begin. Let's start with the body, because that's where you came in. That's the door everyone walks through. I'm going to tell you something that took me a long time to accept. The body, after 50, is not your enemy. It's not betraying you. It's not falling apart out of spite. It is simply telling the truth more loudly than it used to. When you're young, the body forgives everything. You sleep 4 hours, you eat badly, you carry stress like a backpack you forgot you put on, and the body just absorbs it. Quietly. It pays the bill and doesn't show you the receipt. After 50, it shows you the receipt. And most people read that receipt as a tragedy. I want you to read it as honesty. Your body is finally being honest with you about what it needs. That's not decline. That's a relationship maturing. For most of your life, your body did all the work and asked for nothing in return. Now it's asking. That's not betrayal. That's the most loyal thing it could possibly do, to finally tell you the truth. So what does it need? Let's be plain about it. First, movement, not exercise. I'm careful with that word because exercise makes people think of a punishment they're failing at. I mean movement. The body was built to move through the day, not to sit for 11 hours, and then atone for it with 45 minutes of suffering. Here is the truth that the fitness world doesn't make money on. The single most protective thing you can do for a long life is also the most boring. Walk. Every day. Outside if you can. Not to burn anything off. Not to earn anything. Just to remind the body that it's still in use, that it's still wanted, that the lease hasn't run out. The people who live long in this world, the ones they study, in the places where 90-year-olds still tend their gardens, they are not in gyms. They are walking to a friend's house. They are carrying something up a hill. They are moving because their life requires it, gently, all day long. They never once called it a workout. They just called it living. You don't need to become an athlete at 60. You need to stop being still. And here's the part that matters for the spirit, which we'll get to. When you walk, something in the mind unknots. You've felt it. The thought you couldn't solve sitting at the table solves itself somewhere in the second mile. The body and the mind are not roommates. They're married. What you do to one, you do to both. Ruth walked every single morning, the same loop, past the same houses, and she told me once it wasn't her legs she was keeping in shape. It was her head. The walk was where she did her thinking, her remembering, her quiet grieving for the people she'd lost. She came back from it lighter every time, not because the walk fixed anything, because the walk gave her somewhere to put it down. Second, strength. And I need you to hear me on this one, because it's the one most people your age are quietly afraid of. You are not too old to get stronger. You will never be too old to get stronger. The muscle doesn't know how many birthdays you've had. It only knows whether you asked anything of it this week. After 50, we lose muscle quietly, year by year, unless we give the body a reason to keep it. And the reason is simple. You have to use it. Lift something. Stand up from the chair without using your hands. Carry your own groceries. Get down on the floor with a grandchild and, this is the real test, get back up. Because the difference between an old age you dread and an old age you can live inside of often comes down to one humble thing. Can you get up off the floor? Can you catch yourself when you stumble? Can the body, when it's surprised, still answer? That's not vanity, that's freedom. That's the difference between needing the world to come to you and still being able to go out and meet it. I have watched what happens when that freedom goes. I've watched proud, capable people get smaller and smaller, not because their spirit shrank, but because their world did, one thing they could no longer do at a time. First the ladder, then the stairs, then the curb. And nobody warns you that it starts that early, or that it's so quietly preventable. A little strength, kept up, is not about looking a certain way. It's about how far your life is allowed to reach. Third, food. And here, I'm going to disappoint the people who wanted a villain. There is no single food that is killing you, and there is no single food that will save you. I know that's not what sells, but you've lived long enough to recognize a salesman, so I won't be one. What I'll tell you is what the long-lived actually do, stripped of the marketing. They eat food that looks like food, things that grew, things that were recently alive, things their grandmother would recognize as dinner. They eat enough, but not past the point of comfort. There's an old practice. in one of the longest-lived places on Earth, of stopping when you're about 80% full. Not stuffed, satisfied. There's a whole philosophy hiding in that one small mercy. The idea that you can have enough, that enough is a place you can actually arrive at, instead of a thing that keeps moving every time you get close. And they eat with people. This is the part the diet books leave out, because you can't bottle it and sell it. A meal eaten alone, standing at the counter, scrolling, that's fuel. A meal eaten slowly, at a table, with someone you love, or even someone you merely like. That's medicine. The same calories. A different effect entirely. The body knows the difference. So does the spirit. So don't make food your enemy at this stage of life. You've had enough enemies. Make it a place where your body and your relationships get fed at the same time. Fourth, and this is the one people skip, the one I begged the people I loved to take seriously, sleep. We treated sleep, our whole lives, like it was the thing you sacrificed to get everything else done. The badge of the busy. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And then we wonder why we feel halfway there. Sleep is not the absence of living. It's when the living gets repaired. It's when the brain washes itself clean of the day, when the body does its quiet maintenance, when the things you learned settle into place. Rob yourself of it, year after year, and you don't just get tired. You age faster. You think slower. You feel the world as more of a threat than it is. After 50, sleep changes. It gets lighter. It breaks up. You wake at 3 and lie there, and the dark hands you every worry you own, polished and sharpened. That's normal. Don't panic about it. The panic is worse than the waking. The waking you can live with. It's the war you wage against the waking that costs you. Lie there. Let it be 3 o'clock. Morning has always come, every single time, whether you fought for it or not. But protect the sleep you can get. Guard the hour before bed like it's sacred, because in a way it is. Dim the lights. Put the screen down. Yes, I know. Let the day end before you do. You are not lazy for needing rest. You are human for needing it. And the older you get, the more it becomes one of the kindest things you can do for the person you're going to be tomorrow. So there it is. The body's honest list. Move every day. Stay strong enough to catch yourself. Eat like a grown-up and eat with people. Sleep like it matters, because it does. None of it is dramatic. None of it will go viral. And that is exactly why it works. Now, I want to talk about worry. Because if the habits are what you do, worry is what does you. And I've watched worry take more years off good people than any food ever did. There's a particular kind of worry that arrives after 50, and I want to name it. Because naming a thing takes some of its power. It's the worry about running out. Out of time, out of health, out of chances. You hit a certain age and the arithmetic changes. You start counting from the other end. And that arithmetic can poison every good day you have left if you let it. So let's be honest about what's worth worrying about and what isn't. Because not all worry is the same, and the great trick of a peaceful old age is learning to tell them apart. There is useful worry. Useful worry is the kind that turns into an action and then leaves. You worry about the strange thing the body's doing, so you go and have it looked at. And then, this is the important part, you let the worry go because it's done its job. It got you to the doctor. It doesn't get to stay and rent a room in your head for the next 6 months. And then there is the other kind, the worry that circles. The worry that has no door it's trying to walk you through. The worry that just runs all night, like a faucet no one turned off. What if? What if? What if? That worry isn't protecting you. It's just stealing the present to pay for a future that probably won't arrive the way you fear. Here's something I had to learn the hard way. Most of what I spent my 40s and 50s afraid of never happened. And the hard things that did happen, the real ones, the ones that knocked me down, I almost never saw them coming. They weren't on my list of fears at all. Life doesn't usually hit you where you're bracing. It hits you where you're soft. So what good did all that bracing do? None. It just meant I lived a hard life twice. Once in my imagination, and then again when a smaller, more survivable version actually came. I told Ruth about this once, about how much of my mind was always somewhere out ahead of me, scouting for the disaster, never quite in the room. And she said something I've never forgotten. She said, "You know, I spent the first half of my life afraid of all the wrong things, and the second half finding out I was stronger than any of them." She said it like it was nothing, like it was just the weather. But I carried it home like it was treasure, because it was. I don't want you to wait until the second half of your life is mostly behind you to learn that. You've already done enough living twice. So let me give you the worries worth keeping, the short list, the ones that actually deserve your attention at this stage. Worry a little about your relationships, not because they'll fail, but because they need tending. And tending is something you can actually do. The friend you've been meaning to call, the grudge you've been carrying that has long outlived the person you were angry at. These are worth your attention because loneliness, the studies are brutally clear on this, is as hard on the body as any bad habit. We were not built to do the last third of life alone. Pay attention to that. Not with fear, with action. And I'll be honest with you about how this one sneaks up on people. Nobody decides to become lonely. It happens by subtraction. The people you worked with, gone when the work ended. The friends who moved, or got sick, or simply drifted when the thing that held you together dissolved. The children, grown and busy and loving you from a distance that gets a little wider every year. None of it is anyone's fault, but you have to notice it happening, and you have to reach back, because the world will not refill that table for you. You have to do it on purpose, one phone call, one invitation, one awkward first step at a time. It feels like a lot to ask of yourself at this age. It is the cheapest medicine you will ever take. Worry a little about staying useful. Not productive, useful. There is a difference, and your soul knows it. People who keep a reason to get up, a garden, a grandchild, a craft, a person who needs them, a thing that wouldn't get done if they didn't do it. Those people hold on to themselves longer. Purpose is not a luxury for the young and ambitious. It might be the most underrated medicine there is for the old. So yes, worry a little about that. Make sure you're still needed somewhere, by someone, for something. And if you're not, go make yourself needed. It's never too late to become indispensable to one small corner of the world. And then, let the rest go. I mean it. The worry about what people think of you now, let it go. You're past the age where you have to audition for anyone. The worry about the years you can't get back, let it go, gently, the way you'd set down something heavy you've carried too far. The mistakes, the roads not taken, the version of your life that didn't happen. You can grieve them, that's allowed, but you cannot live there. The rent is too high, and the view never changes. There's a freedom available to you now that wasn't available at 30. At 30, you had to care what everyone thought, because you were still building. Now you get to choose. That's not a loss. That's the prize at the bottom of all these years. Most people never reach for it. They keep performing for an audience that left a long time ago. Don't be that. Put the worry down, not all of it. Keep the useful kind, the kind that loves you enough to act. Let the rest fall away. You'll be amazed how much lighter the body feels when the mind finally stops carrying what it was never meant to carry. I want to pause here just for a moment, because if you've come this far with me, through the body, through the worry, then you're not here for a quick fix. You're here for the real thing, and I don't take that lightly. So let me ask you, simply, if anything I've said has felt true, if it's felt like a conversation and not a lecture, then subscribe and stay with us. This channel exists for people exactly like you, people who are done being talked down to, people who are old enough to know better and still curious enough to keep growing. We make these for you, quietly, one honest video at a time, and the only way they reach more people like you is if you're here. And while you're deciding, let me tell you what's coming, because it's the part I've been waiting to get to. We've talked about the body, we've talked about the mind, but there's something underneath both of those. Something that decides whether all of it adds up to a long life or merely a long wait. That's where we're going now, and it's the part almost nobody has the patience to talk about anymore. So stay close. We're getting to the center of it. Let me tell you about the shape of a day, because this is where the body and the spirit meet, and most people never notice the seam. We think of our health as the big decisions, the diagnosis, the diet we start, the decision to finally take it seriously. But a life isn't made of big decisions. A life is made of days, and a day is made of small, repeating moments that you stop noticing because you do them every time. Ruth, the woman I told you about, had a day with a shape to it. I didn't understand it then. I thought she was just old-fashioned. Now I think she was wise in a way that doesn't have a name anymore. She woke with the light, not to an alarm clawing her out of sleep, but to the morning arriving on its own terms. And the first thing she did, before the news, before the phone, before the world could get its hands on her, she had a few minutes that belonged only to her. Coffee, the window, quiet. She let herself wake up before she let the day in. I asked her about it once, why she didn't turn on the radio, didn't reach for anything. And she looked at me like the question was strange. She said, "The day is going to ask a great deal of me. I like to remember who I am before it starts." That was all. I like to remember who I am before it starts. I want you to think about how you start your day. Be honest. For most of us, the very first thing we do is reach for the device that hands us the entire world's anxiety before our feet even hit the floor. Wars, weather, who said what we should be afraid of today. We let the world in before we've even said good morning to ourselves. No wonder we feel behind by 9 in the morning. We started the race already losing. So here is the first piece of the routine, and it costs nothing. Protect the first hour. Or the first 20 minutes, if an hour feels impossible. Let yourself exist before you let the day make demands. The body wakes up gentler. The mind starts from steadiness instead of alarm. And steadiness, once you've got it in the morning, tends to follow you around all day like a loyal dog. Then she moved. Not a workout. She had things to do, and she did them with her body. She tended things. She walked to where she was going if she could. Her movement wasn't scheduled into a slot called fitness. It was woven through the whole day, the way it's supposed to be. That's the second piece. Don't pile your living into 2 exhausting hours and call the rest of the day a write-off. Spread it out. Get up often. Let your body be part of your day instead of a problem you handle at 6 a.m. and then forget. She ate at regular times, and she ate sitting down. And when she could, she ate with someone. The meal was an event, small and ordinary, but an event. A pause. A punctuation mark in the day. Not fuel grabbed between tasks. She set the table even when it was only her. A cloth napkin. A real plate. She told me a person who eats like an afterthought starts to feel like an afterthought, and she had no intention of feeling like one in her own kitchen. That's the third piece. Let your meals be punctuation, full stops in a day that otherwise runs on. The body digests better when you're not in a hurry. That's just biology. But more than that, a meal eaten with attention is a small daily practice of being present, and being present is the whole game. We'll come back to that. And in the afternoon, and this is the one we've forgotten how to do, the one we're almost ashamed of, she rested. Not collapsed. Rested. A real pause in the middle of the day. Maybe she dozed. Maybe she just sat. The world did not end because Ruth sat down in the afternoon. We've built a culture that treats rest like theft, like you're stealing from your own productivity. But you're past the age of proving anything to anyone, remember? Rest is not the reward for a life well spent. Rest is part of a life well spent. The afternoon pause isn't laziness. In half the long-lived cultures on Earth, it's tradition. They were onto something we sold for an extra 2 hours of busy. And then, the evening came down slow. She didn't crash from full speed into sleep. She let the day taper. The lights got lower. The pace got softer. She put the day down before she put herself down. There was a kind of ceremony to her evenings, nothing grand, just the dishes done, the lamp instead of the overhead light, a little music sometimes, the day being thanked and dismissed. She was teaching her body, every single night, that it was safe now, that the work was over, that it could let go. That's the last piece. And it might be the most important one of all. The way you end the day decides the night, and the night decides the next day, and the days are the whole life. A day that ends in a frantic blur of screens and noise gives you a night of shallow, broken sleep, which gives you a tomorrow you start already depleted. A day that ends gently gives the body permission to actually repair. So look at the shape of your day, not the big resolutions, the shape, where it starts, where it pauses, where it ends. Because that shape, repeated a few thousand more times, is your aging. There's no separate thing called how I'm aging hiding behind your days. Your days are it, the whole of it. This is the secret hiding in plain sight. You don't build a long, healthy life out of dramatic gestures. You build it out of an ordinary day, made kind, and then lived again tomorrow. Make the day good, and the years take care of themselves. And now we come to the part underneath all of it. I've put it last on purpose, because if I'd led with it, some of you would have rolled your eyes and reached for the next video, and I don't blame you. We've had spirituality sold to us so badly by so many people that the word itself has gone a little hollow. It got turned into a product, into a pose, into something you buy or post about. So let me be clear about what I do not mean. I don't mean anything you have to believe to qualify for. I'm not here to hand you a doctrine. I'm not here to tell you there's a particular thing you must accept before sundown. Whatever faith you hold or don't, you're welcome here exactly as you are. This isn't about that. What I mean by spirit is simpler and harder, and it's the thing Ruth had that I spent 30 years trying to understand. I mean the part of you that can be at peace with your own life. That's it. That's the whole of it. The capacity to sit inside your own existence, the life you actually got, not the one you ordered, and not be at war with it. Because here is what I've come to believe, after watching a lot of people grow old, some of them beautifully and some of them bitterly. The body ages roughly the same for everyone who takes basic care of it. The walks, the food, the sleep, that's mostly mechanics, and the mechanics are similar from person to person. But the experience of growing old, whether it's a deepening or a shrinking, whether it's serene or sour, that comes down almost entirely to the spirit, to what a person has made of their inner life. I've known people with every physical advantage who were miserable, sharp, strong, well-kept, and bitter as winter. And I've known people the body had treated cruelly who were somehow luminous, at peace, easy to be around, generous with whatever they had left. The difference was never the body, it was always underneath. So let me try to tell you what that under thing is made of. Not so you can buy it, you can't, but so you can recognize it and start, slowly, to build it. Because it can be built. That's the good news I've been saving. Ruth built hers. You can build yours. The first piece is gratitude, and I mean the real kind, not the performed kind. Not the gratitude you list when someone tells you to be grateful. The quiet kind. The kind that catches you off guard on an ordinary morning. The light coming through the window, the smell of the coffee, the simple animal fact that you woke up and you're here, and the day is offering itself to you one more time. That kind of gratitude is not a technique. It's an attention. It's the practice of noticing your life while you're still in it, instead of waiting until it's nearly over to realize how much of it was good. Most of us live in a strange way. We don't appreciate a thing until we're about to lose it. We don't taste the water until we're thirsty. And the great waste of a human life is to spend it half present, always somewhere else, always reaching for the next thing, and only at the very end, finally looking up and seeing how beautiful the ordinary days were, too late to live them again. The Spirit's first job is to fix that, to bring you back, to make you present now, not at the deathbed, to let you taste the water while you still have the whole glass. The second piece is forgiveness. And I have to slow down here, because this one carries the most weight. You are over 50, which means you are carrying things. You'd have to be made of stone not to be. Old wounds, people who hurt you and never said sorry, people you hurt and never made it right with, the version of yourself you've been quietly ashamed of for decades, the grudges, the regrets, the whole heavy bag you've been dragging up the hill of your years. And here is the brutal, simple truth about that bag. It doesn't punish the people who put the weight in it. It only punishes you. The person you can't forgive sleeps fine. The resentment you've nursed for 20 years has never once cost the other person a single night's rest. It only costs you. Your peace, your present, your body, which holds on to bitterness in ways the science is only beginning to measure. I'm not going to tell you forgiveness is easy. It isn't. It's one of the hardest things a human being ever does. And I'm not going to tell you it means saying that what happened was all right, because sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was very far from all right. Forgiveness isn't pretending the wound never happened. It's deciding to stop paying interest on a debt that the other person already walked away from. But I'll tell you what it's for. It's not for them. It was never for them. Forgiveness is the thing you do to set yourself down, to stop carrying the weight up the rest of the hill, to arrive at the top of your life with your hands finally empty enough to hold something new. And the same goes for the forgiveness you owe yourself, which for most people I've known, is the hardest of all. You've been hard on yourself for a long time. You've replayed the failures, the moments you wish you'd done differently, the person you meant to be and didn't quite become. At some point, that has to end. Not because you've earned it, because you've suffered it long enough. The person you were did the best they could with what they knew then. They deserve, finally, your mercy. You'll never be at peace in your old age while you're still at war with your younger self. The third piece is acceptance, and this is the deep one, the one that takes the longest, the one Ruth had so completely that it made her seem like she was made of something softer than the rest of us. Acceptance is making peace with the fact that you are not in charge of everything, that the body will do what it does, that the people you love will live their own lives and make their own choices, and you cannot save them from all of it, that the years are finite, that all of this, is temporary and was always going to be. Most of human suffering, I've come to think, is the refusal to accept that, the fighting against what simply is. We rage against the gray hair, the slower step, the changing face in the mirror, the losses that come more often now. And the rage doesn't change a single thing. The body ages anyway. The losses come anyway. It just adds suffering on top of the sorrow. It makes the hard thing harder. Acceptance isn't giving up. I want to be very clear about that, because people confuse the two and it costs them. Acceptance is not surrender. It's the opposite. It's the deep, clear-eyed strength of looking at your life exactly as it is, the gift and the limit, the beauty and the ending, and saying yes. Yes to this one. Yes to the life I actually got. Not the one I planned. This one. That yes is the most powerful thing a person can say. And it's the thing underneath every serene old face you've ever envied. They're not serene because life was kind to them. They're serene because at some point they stopped fighting it and started living it. That's the spirit. Gratitude that makes you present. Forgiveness that sets you down. Acceptance that lets you say yes. None of it requires a single belief you don't already hold. All of it requires practice, the same way the body requires the walk. You do it a little every day, and it builds, quietly, into the kind of person who can grow old without growing bitter. The kind of person who's unhurried. The kind of person other people want to sit near, without quite knowing why. That's not given to you, that's built. One ordinary day at a time, exactly like everything else we've talked about. So let me bring it together now. All of it. Because it was never really 4 separate things. The walk in the morning isn't only for the heart, it's where the mind unknots and the gratitude sneaks up on you. The meal with someone you love isn't only food, it's the loneliness held off for one more evening, the body and the spirit fed at the same table. The afternoon rest isn't laziness, it's a small daily practice of trusting that the world will hold without you holding it. The way you put down the day isn't only about sleep, it's about whether you can let go, every single night, of a day you can't get back. It's all one thing. It always was. The body and the spirit are not 2 projects. They're one life, and they rise and fall together. You cannot truly heal the one while you're at war in the other. A peaceful mind in a neglected body breaks down. A cared-for body carrying a bitter spirit goes sour from the inside. They need each other. They were always meant to be tended together. That's the thing the longevity sellers will never tell you, because you can't put it in a bottle. The people who grow old well are not the ones who found the perfect diet or the magic supplement. They're the ones who built, slowly, unglamorously, over thousands of ordinary days, a life their body could thrive in, and a spirit their heart could rest in. At the same time, as one thing, you don't need more discipline. You've had discipline your whole life. Look at everything you've already survived, everything you've already carried. You don't need to be harder on yourself. God knows you've been hard enough. What you need is to begin treating the rest of your life as something worth tending. Gently, every day, without war. That's not a small thing. That might be the only thing. I want to go back to Ruth, one last time. And then, I'll let you go. I told you she was unhurried. I told you she could finish her sentence while the world burned. But I never told you the last thing I remember about her. And it's the thing I think about most now that I'm closer to her age than to the age I was when I knew her. Near the end, when her body had finally started to fail her in earnest, someone asked her, gently, the way you ask these things, if she was afraid. And she thought about it. She actually thought about it, didn't just reach for the brave thing to say. And then she said, "No, I used everything up. I didn't leave anything in the tank to be afraid of losing. I didn't understand it then. I think I do now." She wasn't talking about the body she'd used up long ago and gladly. She was talking about the life. She had lived it all the way down. She hadn't held back the love to protect herself from the loss. She hadn't saved her presence for some better day that never comes. She hadn't postponed her own life, waiting for the conditions to be perfect. She'd spent it. Day by ordinary day, she'd actually lived the whole thing. And so there was nothing left over to mourn, because she hadn't left a single good day unlived. I think most of us are doing the opposite. We're saving ourselves. Saving the good dishes, the good feeling, the real conversation, the trip, the apology, the I love you, for some later that we assume is coming. Ruth didn't save anything. She spent it all, every day as it came. And that, in the end, is the only longevity that ever really mattered. Not a longer life. A life you were actually present for. That's what I want for you, not just more years. Anyone can give you a video about more years. I want you to use the years. To stop saving your life for later. To walk in the morning and forgive the old wound and rest in the afternoon and call the friend and taste the water while the glass is full. So here's the last thing I'll ask of you. If this was the kind of conversation you don't get to have much anymore, the honest kind, the unhurried kind, then do two things for me. Subscribe and stay, so we can keep having them. And then send this to 5 people you love who are walking this same road. The ones who are also done being talked down to. The ones who deserve to hear it said plainly. You'll know exactly who they are. And leave me a comment, a real one, not a polite one. Tell me what you're going to set down. Tell me what you're finally going to say yes to. And tell me what you want us to talk about next, because these are for you, and I want to make the ones you actually need. You've spent a long time taking care of everyone else. A long time bracing for things that mostly never came. You can put some of that down now. The day is offering itself to you one more time. Go on, don't be in a hurry.